General Manager of Benue State Transport Agency between 1991 and 1993, and as a lecturer in the Faculty of Environmental Science, University of Jos. Dr. Vyashma attended the prestigious Ivy League Cornell University, Ithaca, New York, USA, from where he obtained a PhD. He also attended London School of Economics and Political Science, University of London, where he obtained MSc and Middlesex Polytechnic, MPhil, London, where he obtained a bachelor's degree. Dr. Vyashma is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport and a member of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present to you our lead speaker for today, Dr. Uwese Vyashma. Thank you very much. You may have your seat. And on this note, I would like to hand over the microphone to the chairman of this session, Town Planner Moses Ogunleye. Or do you want me to take his abridged profile as well? Though I will reserve that another day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Assistant National Public Relations Secretary, President Nitp in absentia, President Toprek, past President, I salute you. Distinguished conference participants, I welcome you. Hello. I can hear some background noise. Let's be attentive. That's why we are here. Let's enjoy the conference. And let's try to be resilient, even with the increasing temperature. Don't worry. That's part of what you will learn and hear about in this lecture. This session will be for 45 minutes, if you check the program very well. We'll do it this way. Dr. Vyashma will speak for 22 minutes. I will discuss the paper for 23 minutes. So all of us, we gain 1 minute from his own, from the time. So we have 23 minutes. He has 22 minutes. I think he can do well with that. I'm looking forward to listening to matters of resilience and sustainability. And more importantly, shocks. Shocks. So, Dr. Vyashma, you have the floor.
Moderator, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to stand on existing protocols. What I hope to do in this presentation quickly is to amplify this year's conference and annual general meeting theme of planning human settlements in Nigeria for resilience and sustainability. Growing interest in resilience and sustainability has been given further impetus by the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly goal number 11, that talks about making cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Other international agreements like the New Urban Agenda, as well as even the Paris Agreement on climate change, also leverage on the idea of sustainability and resilience of cities. The literature on resilience and sustainability is more of urban than other settlements, which may seem as if those other ones are not important. But the reason is very obvious. More of the work on resilient cities has been done where they are predominantly urban. We are only catching in on what is happening based on the encouragement from the Sustainable Development Goals. And like every other thing, when we are coming behind, we have very few examples to draw from. But at least we can assess the potential of the framework or the paradigm shift and see what can be adopted, what can be developed, what can be adopted and adapted, and what we can leverage on in terms of the choices we make in what to do with the concepts. But I want to say right away that our own environment has its own peculiarities. We still have about 47% of our population resident in lower order settlements. And so they present peculiar problems that may not be necessarily susceptible to resilience and sustainability planning in the conventional sense of the word. Because the rigors of that particular methodology, that framework, are such that lower order settlements like villages and hamlets may not be able to generate the required resources and skills and all the other things that go to building resilience. So I want to make that very clear from the onset, that when we are assessing these concepts, we must also take into account our own peculiar setting and what we need to do. Hierarchy of settlements and what we see from that tells us that we need to also be more careful in assessing what is happening with respect to the particular and peculiar needs of settlements at the lower order. So building a resilience framework also leverages on things like urban intelligence, a lot of data gathering and analysis, so that you can establish the existing patterns, you can identify trends, you can also do some forecasting. I wonder how lower order settlements like villages and towns, and hamlets that are also with a sizable part of our population can be subjected to this level of analysis. So we must be very conscious of the choices we make with regards to issues of that nature. So in the paper that I prepared for this, I began by identifying the hierarchy of settlements, as you all know. But then, that is only one approach. There are many approaches to discussing the hierarchy of cities. I use the population threshold from the hamlet to the megacity. And then, at the end of the day, we find that one thing all our settlements have in common, as we have been saying here over and over, is they all developed before they were planned. They developed without any formal planning. There is always some kind of planning, but it may not be the modern planning that we know, which has specific goals and objectives to achieve in terms of efficiency, in terms of order, in terms of functionality, in terms of the standard quality of services and infrastructure that is required of a growing human settlement. In that context, our cities and our villages and our small towns and the big ones mostly grew without formal planning. And even when it was introduced, it was never properly implemented. Those are far more weightier issues, as far as I see it, than the idea of developing a new framework of analysis. Like the president said this morning, if a plan is not implemented, then it's as good as there's no plan. For the most part, we have plans that were never implemented, and those that were implemented selectively, and so did not have the desired impact that they were expected to have. Along those lines, we have far more urgent challenges to deal with in terms of improving capacity so that we are able to do what we can do given the resource requirements. The resilience and sustainability framework is also very expensive and presupposes that a city has the resource base, the expertise, and all that goes with it to be able to look inwards and plan and get its priorities right. I don't think we have that. We all know that cities in Nigeria do not have their own independent revenue base as such. They are mostly dependent on government allocations. And in most cases, it is not forthcoming in the amount that is required and the timely releases. We can see this from the example of the fact that at the beginning, when we were all excited about master plans, a good number of them were prepared, but they are never implemented. And part of the reasons were not far-fetched: lack of resources, lack of expertise, and all the other things that go to successful planning. So I don't see what would be different if we don't change those parameters, how we can have resilience Among the suggestions I know exist in that document of Vision 2020 is to have, within the geopolitical zone, selected towns that will act as development centers, from where development can now diffuse to the other systems within the zone. That is far more useful to me, if implemented, than the idea of looking for a new framework. We are not going to reinvent the wheel. We are going to use the tools and the items that we have more effectively and more judiciously and more realistically before we can get the results that we want. Government needs to do a lot more for us. Like was said this morning, our 1992 Urban and Regional Planning Act, which also has the stage set for effective planning, has not been implemented properly at all. So those are the kind of things that are far more immediately relevant than to building sustainability than the resilience framework per se, because of the reasons I have already mentioned. I want to believe that if government were to take its responsibility of partnering with Nigerian cities seriously, it would immediately implement the Town Planning Act, as well as the provisions of Vision 2020 as they affect regional planning and the way our cities are run. We have always complained about the fact that cities don't have their own governance structure that allows them to develop and have a resource base that they can utilize for building infrastructure, for providing services, and for doing all that it takes to administer a city. This is not in line with international best practice. So if we are going to be selective in what we choose as best practice and allow even the more fundamental ones to be ignored, then I am not sure that we can achieve sustainability and resilience in the sense or in the context in which we are operating. So I want to believe that those are far more weightier issues and the more immediate issues that we can deal with than the idea of assessing a framework whose demands are such that we may not be able to achieve much within the short time available to us. The choices we make in terms of urban infrastructure and systems are also very inefficient, and they stem from the fact that we have not been able to translate our intentions properly. Those things that go to creating an environment that is not conducive for resilience. At the end of the day, we have a situation where the constraints to successful implementation will continue to hamper our efforts to achieving effective, efficient, and livable cities. And as I said before, they are centered around institutional capacity building, a lack of experience and competent professionals, inadequate tools and equipment, funding limitations, the Nigerian factor, and lack of synergy between the various tiers of governance as far as issues of the city are concerned, and as well as ineffective monitoring and evaluation, corruption, and the like. Against that background, we want to believe that as our population has grown rapidly and our human settlements are particularly vulnerable to shocks and stresses, we need to do more in terms of the conventional tools we have in physical planning to address them. And this will involve being able to translate plans into implementable actions and seeing them through timely and efficiently so that we can make progress in the areas and sectors that are available to us, given our problems of resource scarcity and expertise in some areas, while we can plan for other things in a more organized and in manner. So the human settlements we know will continue to grow and will continue to be vulnerable as long as we continue to do things the way we are doing them. What is required, therefore, is taking first steps first, and that is improving on what we have in terms of the environment under which we plan and utilizing that framework to developing what we can do in terms of improving efficiency, improving order, and improving performance of our existing human settlements. With that way, we will be building our own version of sustainable cities, using our resources more effectively. If you see what is happening, there's no way we can talk about sustainability if the way we manage cities now, the waste and all the choices we make that are inefficient and ineffective, will take us to where we want to get to. So the basic message is resilience and sustainability as a paradigm is useful to the extent that it allows us to call attention, it calls our attention to possibilities. But the more urgent issues that we have to face are to do with implementing our existing plans and policies and even enactments as far as they affect human settlements in Nigeria. Once we do not start on that framework, I don't see how we can begin to fly when we have not learned to walk. I think on that note, I will say our own version of resilience and sustainability will begin by trying to make planning more effective in terms of the tools we already have, funding adequately, giving us a structure in the city that allows it to generate its revenue and run the city effectively using the resources, as well as embark on massive training capacity for institutional actors that help in the built environment area, not available particularly at local level and even in some states. So with that kind of scenario, I don't know what magic anybody's bringing new ideas on board that are not in our own context, implementable or feasible, given the lean resources we have, the limited skills, and the political will to do what needs to be done for the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vyashma. I gave you 22 minutes. You spent less than that. So thank you. Thank you for being resilient. If you had spent longer time, I would have asked you to. So thank you. You made the presentation so simple. And while you were presenting, my mind went to some issues. So we'll ask people to comment and make observation. But before then, I was just reflecting. All that you said, they are big grammar. Resilience is big, sustainability is big. So the common man, because in implementing all those things that you said, they are all stakeholders. And imagine if I'm going to talk to a market woman, I'm addressing them in a market. I need to now use words and examples that will drive home resilience. And if I can't link resilience to wellness and well-being, to economic development, to growth, I may not be saying anything. They will just say, I've come with my grammar. Unfortunately, I'm from Lagos. They say we blow grammar in Lagos. So I'm looking at that from that angle. You raise the issue of urban intelligence. And you also talk about administrative structure. Who is coordinating what? Which ministry is central to resilience? Is there a box where resilience is measured? Lagos has. There's Lagos Resilience Office. That, and aware, recently that office reminded the ministry of what he ought to do that he has not done in 2021. So in other states, at federal level, is there an agency of government, not necessarily a corporation, not necessarily, that is saddled with the desk of resilience? I know we buy into many USDG, MDG, and what have you. So I've also looked at that. Those in research, there are a million research work on resilience. Have they linked their research to economic development? Will the governor listen to me if I'm Tunji Odunlami as a commissioner? If I'm talking resilience, and I'm telling Mr. Governor, sir, resilience is very key. Our city will be better if you do this. There will be flooding, so much waste, mudslide, and what have you. So these are the issues that my mind is pondering on when you are presenting. Lastly, you went to an area which is very big. Why our master plan not implemented? It's bigger than this conference. The last conference, that was my paper 2 years ago. There are many reasons. Even when we are not using the big English or word, resilience and sustainability, every master plan will address matters of resilience and sustainability. NSAS, That protest is a shock, and you can take it to resilience. Look at how Lagos bounced as part of resilience. If it happens in Port Harcourt, that kind of damage that we had in Lagos, will the city of Port Harcourt bounce back 3 months, 6 months? And I know there's a challenge. Courts were burned down. Consulting for a group, government had to go and look at an estate where court was not an issue. And the estate protested. Don't bring court. 5 courts in one estate. So those are the issues, I think. And resilience is very big. We must continue to, it's how prepared we are. That's a big issue about resilience. So I open the floor. It saved us 5 minutes, so we will do 23 plus 4. That is 27 minutes to make contributions and then ask him questions. Probe him, that's why he's there. So I've seen a hand. I'll pretend I didn't see it. Even if he takes it down, I've seen the hand. 1, Past President Bumi Ajayi. Are you resisting? Are you resilient? Do you understand what I said? 1, okay. Maybe when Tamara Bumi Ajayi make his statement. Oh, he just did some consultancy work on resilience. So he has to talk. So, Tamara Ajayi. I exposed him.
The guest speaker. Let me start by saying that you and myself had a fairly similar background. I was in the Central Planning Office of the Federal Ministry of Economic Development, and I was part of the team that wrote the Regional Development Division of the 3rd Development Plan. So that's why I said we come from a mindset which is rather questioning what we are doing and what we are talking about without really doing the first things first. The chairman was talking about every master plan has some the elements of resilience and things like that. When you talk about flooding, the mere fact that
don't come to help you plan your landed properties. They want good environment for us. They want beautify our towns. Yeah. Town planners say them be the answer to good environment. Town planners, them go help you to plan your landed properties. Them get good standard, we go make our life better. We go live in peace, we go live in beautiful environment. Now we dey push awareness to the people wey dey our nation. We your landed properties. They want good environment for us. They want beautify our towns. Yeah. Our planners say them be the answer to good environment.